me from a northern climate. Cold temperatures when I'm infected lay me low. However, please convey my deep appreciation for this award, and I look forward to the future activities of the International Listening Association. The second recipient, Carl H. Weaver, I would also like to quote from the letter of recommendation. Professor Carl H. Weaver was introduced to me through two of his master's candidates at the University of Maryland. Gerald Goldhaber and Michael Sinkoff shared their admiration for this man who had directed their first graduate degree. Sometime in the late 60s, we had Professor Weaver as a guest speaker at Purdue, and we graduate students in the communication department were in for a genuine treat. What I can recall most is his impact on the graduate students from his own communication behavior. One afternoon in the coffee lounge, he made it clear that he was there to get information as well as to give it, and share ideas of exactly what he did. Listening. Professor Carl H. Weaver, in the course of his illustrious career, has taught many classes, advised many graduate students, published a number of articles and books with listening as the focal point. Human Listening, Process and Behavior, authored by Dr. Weaver, is an excellent synthesis and examination of the major research findings on listening. My favorite contribution by Dr. Weaver is a book he co-authored some years ago with Dr. Warren L. Straussbaum, Fundamentals of Speech Communication. Perhaps the following quote from Fundamentals of Speech Communication best illustrates Carl Weaver's attitude towards listening. Quote, "The pivotal point in the communication process is the receiver or the listener. It is what happens in him that determines the effect of the communicative act. The sender can only send, and he may never know the effect of the message." A letter that I want to share now from Dr. Carl H. Weaver. I'm sorry to report that I cannot, after all, attend your annual convention in March. As Ernie Pyle once wrote, the rigors of old age. However, I am grateful to your committee and to the association tendering me this honor of being in your Hall of Fame. I am impressed by the progress that you have made in a few short years. I was involved in the early years of what we call the NFSC, and it was a long time before we could afford a printed newsletter. And when we finally reached that point, our newsletter was not comparable to yours. I have not seen your entire membership list, but the names I have seen impressed me with the quality of your membership. You have some great...
And it said, we, the local arrangements committee, has really done a terrific job. But when I saw the rest of the sign, I noted it was not an ad for the International Listening Association. It was some bank here in St. Paul that listens. I'm Sally Webb. I'm from the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, and I would first of all like to introduce to you the people who are at the head table. Carolyn Copley is the secretary of the International Listening Association. She's a high school teacher from High Point High School and also teaches at the University of Maryland. Harvey Weiss is a member at large of the executive board, and he is a communication instructor from Cooper High School. Our next guest will be meeting a little bit later, but I'd like to introduce him anyway, briefly. John Simonet is an associate judge of the Minnesota Supreme Court and will be our speaker today. Bob Miller is immediately to my left, and Bob is the first vice president of the International Listening Association. He's the person who has put together the program. He's also the vice president of Telstar, and he's also the mayor of Hopkins, which Harvey tells me is the poor man's Edina. newsletter out and all those kinds of good things. Nan Johnson-Kariskas is the local arrangements chairman, and she's a counselor from Harmony High School in Harmony, Minnesota. The next person is Manny Stiles, who was the first president and the founder of the International Listening Association, and he's the president of Communication Development Incorporated. We have several announcements to make, so Nan will make the first announcement.
Can I do it from here? Takes longer to walk over here than to just shout. And I used to work in a middle school, so I can talk over any bunch of crazies, right? Welcome to Minneapolis, Minnesota. Welcome to St. Paul. We're very, very glad to see you here. If anything needs to be done concerning the hotel or concerning the accommodations, please let me know. The people here have been very, very accommodating, and I've been real pleased to work with them. I do have two announcements. First of all, teachers, Minnesota teachers, we will have renewal units available for certification, 5 per day. I won't have any forms to sign for you until tomorrow, so if there are any of you who need to leave today, let me know and I'll get those mailed to you. Otherwise, stop by the registration desk in the morning and we'll take care of signing those and filling them out for you. Second thing is, I don't know, what do we call ourselves? The Minnesota contingency? Is that what you want to be called? I know we're called other things, but that's the first thing. Oh yeah, the Minnesota Mafia, that's the one. Is also pleased to announce that breaking with tradition for one time in 4 years, we have a hospitality room for you. But we're talking soft drinks and coffee here. At any rate, that room will be open to you. It is room 123, which should be easy to remember. It's open right now through this way in the garden court here or around the other side through the door. Keys, I have one, Jerry has one, and Harvey has one. If anything runs out, open the closet. There's more stuff in there. Okay? We'll try to keep that open until towards evening, like 10 o'clock, when those of us who are going out to the amphitheater and so on get back. We had found people who were interested in having a place to go that wasn't necessarily the bar or their own room, so we'd like to open that up to you. That will be open until Friday afternoon unless we get more donations and can afford another night. Thank you for being here. If I can do anything to help you between now and Saturday, please let me know. Thank you.
Bob Miller also has an announcement.
Just two quick notes. As you notice, this year we have a rather extensive table of materials available, and that is through the work of Al Zimmerman. Al, are you here at lunch? Al, why don't you just stand up? Al is from Mankato, and he has a helper here today, Nancy Meisel, who is also a new member. One other thing I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is I would like to recognize the new members. There are a few with us today, and they'll be keep coming in. Those who are new members, why don't you just stand up and tell us your name? Why don't we start? Is there anyone on this table? Okay. Shout it out.
I'm Marilyn Lewis. I'm from Abilene Christian University in Texas.
Why don't you turn around, George? The camera's on that side. George.
Larita Guillory, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Southern University.
I'm Robin Hobart, and I teach at the Marine Military Academy in Harlingen, Texas.
Pat Michael. I teach at Mankato State University. Jay Ludwig, and I'm a counselor at Eastbury High
Kurt Ashton, Southeastern Oklahoma State University in Durant, Oklahoma.
I'm Joan Bill. I'm from Newton, New Hampshire, and I'm with New England Telephone.
John Murphy. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. John Murphy, I only had 4 quarters. I gave those to Nan. She said, how many members do you want me to call? She brought in 4 in just about a minute.
Is that right?
Yep. More about that later.
Sure.
The other thing that I'd like to do, we're fortunate, is Gordon Barrett. If you're, Gordon, would you stand up, please? Gordon Barrett is a management consultant who is involved in a new project, and he is asked if anyone would like to participate. It is a project that asks the question, do people handle data more effectively as individuals or as groups, within groups? Do people listen to one another in life-death situations? After a person has determined what he or she would do, are they willing to listen, negotiate, and possibly compromise their position? What he has done is a research project which includes the following: a case study done for the initial 10 minutes that you do individually, a case study then that is done in teams, and the feedback of the results, which will be in 15 minutes. He has consented that if anyone wishes to participate in this, and it fits nicely with our theme, that he will be in the author's room, that is downstairs in our convening rooms, at 3 p.m. Friday. Then you will send results to people and
they'll get immediate feedback on how they did, and anyone who would like to know the results of this and the ongoing results over the next 11 months that the project is set up for, I'll be happy to mail the data to them.
Okay. And Saturday afternoon, see Gordon and we'll assign a room. Basically, it is something that we're all interested in, especially in the research. The next item I have is that everyone is welcome to the Cats and Huntley, and I promise not to do my Cat and Huntley joke again this year, to their session, but they only have enough handouts for the number of people who signed up to participate. They will, however, send handouts to anyone who wants them, and their session will continue in the Wabasha 5 room. Our jam session leader, Bob Walker, is on his way. He's been stranded because of the weather, and we will start the jam session without him, and we'll just wait for him to come. The jam session, indeed, is sharing information that we all have. So again, thank you, and have fun. Oh, gee, I forgot the most important message. Warren Gore.
If I may, those of you who have signed up to attend the Friday night Greek dinner and then as a free program, Dylan Thomas's Undermilk Wood, we will have a bus leaving Friday afternoon about 5:25 downstairs, take you out to the source, to the site of the dinner and the performance, and then return you back to this hotel, all for the grand price of $2. You can't beat it. Best deal in town. So if you would let them know at the registration table you are interested in taking that bus, we'd like to get a count between now and tomorrow morning sometime, about maybe perhaps by tomorrow noon. So if you wish to write out to the site of the dinner and the program, sign up at the registration table, please.
Harvey Weiss will now introduce our guest speaker.
Oh, I have a correction. The price of the meal is $10. That is not included in the bus ride, okay?
Thank you, Warren. Welcome to all of the audiophiles we have in the audience today. It's very, very nice to see all of you. Today's luncheon and speaker is again in tradition with the trying out new things theme that we are going through this year. And I'm very happy to see all of you here. I think we have a very excellent speaker. 29 years John has spent as a trial lawyer prior to his appointment to the state Supreme Court in 1980 by ex-governor at this time, Al Tweed. Judge Simina is one of 9 justices on the Supreme Court, and as an appellate judge, I felt that since his job is basically listening to testimony, making decisions, that he would fit right in with our particular program today. He listens to oral arguments, as you know, and he does have a audio-visual support aid, whatever you want to call it, to show you that reinforces the idea that Supreme Court justices are very active listeners. Judge Simina is married. Wife Doris was going to come, she couldn't make it. They have 6 children. John is a lecturer on the circuit, legal seminars, and is in demand for situations like this. And I'd like to give a nice warm welcome to the Honorable John Simina.
Cousin Harv, yes, my cousin, President Webb, and ladies and gentlemen, I find your field of interest genuinely intriguing and provocative and valuable. I think that too often in communications in the equation we stress, at least those of us outside your organization, the role of the speaker. And to the extent we consider the listener at all, it's from the speaker's viewpoint. Who thinks of the listener from the listener's viewpoint? Well, take, for example, eye contact. I was always told as a speaker to have eye contact with the audience, but I tell you, when you're the listener, it gets a little unnerving to have somebody eyeballing you on something. So, the listener's viewpoint. The listener has rights. And I think that was brought home to me most forcibly quite a few years ago. Young married man and a lawyer in the Little Falls. And for those of you not from Minnesota, that's 100 miles north of here, central Minnesota, home of Charles Lindbergh. I joined the Junior Chamber of Commerce. We met one evening and thought we should have a civic project. The high school was organizing a boys' silver cornet band, and somebody said, well, why don't the JCs donate the uniforms to the band? We all agreed on that, and then how to raise the money. I suggested bingo. Go to St. Mary's. But more adventurous souls prevailed, and they said, here, we've got a product. Let's just go door to door and get donations. It's quicker. We've got a good purpose for fighting juvenile delinquency, and I'm sure the people will contribute money for the uniforms. So I went out that weekend with Urban Capture. We went over to the west side. We made a number of stops, and we came to just a neat little white house, green shutters, white picket fence and a gate. Walked through up on the porch, knocked on the door. Urban did the talking. And a nice, pleasant little old lady, white-haired lady came, and she said, yes. And Urban said, we're from the JCs. He said, we're asking for donations for the boys' silver cornet band uniform. We think it's a good thing to fight juvenile delinquency here in Little Falls, and would you like to make a contribution? She smiled and she said, young man, I can't hear you. Could you speak a little louder? I said, speak a little louder. Man, he says we're from the JCs. We're asking for donations for the boys' silver cornet band uniform. We think we're fighting juvenile delinquency, and would you like to make a contribution? What'd you say, young man? I said, Urban, you can do better than that. Man, we're fighting juvenile delinquency. Do you want to contribute uniform? meetings were going out, and the lady up there in the porch said, "Don't forget to close the gate." Urban should have done this, but he just sort of muttered to me, "Oh, the hell with her." The little old lady says, "Yes, and the hell with your boy Silver for that Last November, the voters of the state of Minnesota, by an overwhelming vote, some 77%, authorized the expenditure in these difficult financial times of over $3 million to enable judges to listen better and more often. We had on the ballot a proposal to amend the Minnesota Constitution to establish an intermediate court of appeal. In this state, we have two tiers of courts: the trial level, where you have the trial, and then our level, the Supreme Court, where appeals are taken. What has happened over the years, and especially in the last decade, is there's been such an overload of appeals. 1,700 matters submitted to us in the last year, and it's growing at the rate of about 10% a year, that we simply cannot do justice to that work. We told the people of the state, one thing we had to do was we cut back on oral arguments to only about 10% of the cases, those that we felt were just the most important. 90% of the appeals, there would be no oral argument. Lawyers and litigants didn't like it. They wanted to be able to tell us in person about their case. And judges, we didn't like it either. We wanted to listen. You can learn a lot more from that kind of personal contact than you can from reading a cold record of the trial below. With an intermediate court, appeals can go to it, and then we can select the more important cases and have the time to spend on them at the Supreme Court level. And one of the ways the Intermediate Court of Appeals was sold to the state and sold to the lawyers of our state who have their doubts is that you're going to get your right to oral argument. Well, I thought I might tell you this new and some of my impressions about your field of interest. From my experiences as a trial lawyer, and now since September of 1980 as an appellate judge. For 29 years, as a trial lawyer, I suppose I tended to spend most of my time getting other people to listen to me. I listened too, but really, I wanted the jury to listen. I wanted the judge to listen. I wanted the clients to listen to me. I studied techniques, the art of persuasion and advocacy, the use of reason and logic, righteous indignation and injured innocence, and the importance of personal appearance. Dress suit, preferably blue serge, shiny shoes. And then the latest fad, body language. All those, I went to seminars, conventions. I learned about body language. Never stand behind a podium. It means you're hiding from them. You're afraid. Get out in front. I went to a seminar in New York by eminent trial lawyers, and they said, as a lawyer, never wear a bow tie. It's an odd thing to do, and jurors can't identify with it. So I listened to all these things, and picked up what I thought I might use and what I might not. But as I say, while I had to listen to others, basically it was more they're listening to me. And it's important, of course, to know who you're speaking to, and sometimes you're not speaking to the person that you're speaking to. That's very clear. Very clear. One of my favorite stories is there's a lawyer in St. Paul here by the name of George McPartland. he was defending a fellow on I think, a drunk driving case. And he waived the jury. The judge alone was going to decide the case, and the state put on its evidence, and all George did was cross-examine the state's witnesses. And when it came time, he didn't put his defendant on the stand. And they were through, and the prosecuting attorney made his closing argument, and then the judge said to George, he said, Mr. McPartland, it's time now for you to make your closing argument. George just sat there, he didn't get up. He said, don't you have an oral presentation that you want to make to me? George said, no. He said, it wouldn't do any good, Your Honor. My client was totally dead. So, in that case, not having a case, sometimes I think that was true with my arguments as well. The judge didn't listen, but my client thought they were just great. Well, in September of this year, or September of 1980, I was appointed to the Supreme Court, and it gave me a new perspective on my profession. I had a new role. Now, I become primarily a listener. Rather than making oral arguments, they're being made to me. And so I have to learn how to listen effectively. I listen now not to be entertained, but to do justice. And that means somehow I have to learn to listen to the poor arguments as well as the good ones, because there's some wheat among all that chaff. Somehow try to be able to follow what is being said. There are two kinds of judges, as you probably know. The trial judge at the trial level, and then the appellate judge, such as where I am now. At the appellate level, we do not take evidence. We do not conduct trials. We simply look over the record, appeal from the court below, and decide whether there was error and we should reverse or affirm or send back. But let me talk just very briefly about trial judges and about a trial. The purpose of a trial is to determine the facts from conflicting evidence. Did Mr. Brown make a false statement at the real estate closing on October 1st? Was the defendant's car over the center line? Testimony either way. The trier of fact, usually the jury, has to sift that testimony and find the fact, and then apply to it the law as the trial judge presiding gives to the jury. It involves that old question of credibility of witness. So the trial judge, the jury, they listen. They listen to what is said, to how it's said, and oftentimes as to what isn't said. I thought, as a trial lawyer, the most difficult part of listening during a trial was when opposing counsel was eliciting the testimony